Hey, Woody Fest family. My name is Deana McCloud, and I am the founding executive director of the Woody Guthrie Center in Tulsa. But right now, I'm a Woody Fest family member, and I really miss all of your faces. I certainly miss all the hugs and the huge family reunion, the music and the community, the parking lot jams, everything, and I look forward to things being a little more normal next year. That being said, I want to congratulate the Woody Fest Board of Directors for their wisdom and compassion and concern in making sure all of us are able to gather together in a way that limits our exposure to coronavirus and also just allows us the opportunity to at least find the family digitally, as we all are doing anyway. So congratulations on that, and thank you for pivoting in this way so that we are still able to gather and share some love, share some music, and some amazing times. For my program, we're going to focus on the 80th anniversary of This Land Is Your Land. In what seems like decades ago, but was only a few months, on February 23rd of this year, we gathered in New York City at the Town Hall for a special show celebrating the anniversary of Woody writing This Land Is Your Land. And it was absolutely right next door to the venue. Hanover House, where Woody was sitting when he wrote This Land Is Your Land, is now a Steinway piano showroom. And according to Nora, specifically, he would have been sitting at the second Steinway from the left. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, you can actually check out where Woody would have been sitting when he wrote This Land Is Your Land. As part of the event, we wanted to make sure that we gathered artists from all around Woody's ribbon of highway, but especially wanted to make sure that we took some of our Tulsa artists to meet some New York artists. The places that Woody loved living the most needed to be well represented in this show. What we didn't realize was what magic we would be creating. And of course, I guess we should have, because anytime you're using Woody as your guiding light, there's always magic to be made. We combined a couple of acts who had never met before, which that's the Woody Fest way. Why can't we do it in New York, right? We took Branjae from Tulsa, who is an R&B soul goddess, and had her perform This Land with Gangstagrass, a bluegrass hip hop group from Brooklyn. Let's see what happens. And what happened was amazing. It was an incredible representation of what this land is and also what this land could be. So for this program, we're going to share the video that we made during that show with Branjae Gangstagrass, as well as having a discussion with the band and Branjae about why they chose to do the song the way that they did. And then we also have a video tour of the cases that we curated about the anniversary of This Land Is Your Land, a little short overview of the history and some items that are in the cases, and just a little bit of background information on the song. I know all of you are going to be singing along with Branjae and Gangstagrass on this song, so I hope you have an amazing time. Next year, I'm going to warn you guys, you know I'm a serial hugger. I'm coming at you. I am going to be hugging everybody, so you need to be prepared, and we'll share the love in person. In the meantime, it's so exciting to be here to share the love online with you, and I look forward to seeing all of your faces really soon. Have a great Woody Fest!
What's up, y'all? This land is just land, is so it's claimed. But when they came here, it already had a name. The people that they brought here also had the same. So if this land is yours, then also take the blame for the nations that's killed, people that died, people all across the land that they cried. Make sure you recognize the people all over the country, all sides. This land is yours and this land is mine. So make sure if you want to get down, come stand in line. Gangstagrass here to have a real good time. Everybody up in the joint, put a hand in the sky. See, all my people from all across the populace, from rural towns to a sprawling metropolis. Y'all came out to rock with us. Whoever you worship, whatever God you trust. Singing from the valleys, yelling from the towers. Soldiers holding rifles, hippies holding flowers. Rebuild the system, reclaim the powers. If this land is yours, it's most certainly ours.
One sunny morning, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I saw my people. They stood there hungry, and I stood there wondering if this land was made for you and me. There was a big old wall there, it tried to stop me. A sign said private property, but on the back side, it didn't say nothing, 'cause this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
When the sun came shining, then I was strolling in the wheat fields, waving, the dust clouds rolling. The voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. It was saying, this land was made for you and me. As I was walking down a river highway, I saw above me that empty skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. Oh, this land is made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Yeah.
This man walk across the big man, walk across the crown with the big man. Recognize really this a big land. Road tripping, it's a big plan. A lot of times everybody hanging on. Still holding to the wall, still holding strong. Shout it out loud for the sound of the calls. Grind winter, spring, summer, for the harvest in the fall. If we all really got a say in this land, then we all gotta really set a stake in this land. For them greedy corporations finish taking this land, poison in the water and wasting the land. Think about a place for your fam. Will your grandkids find a better place in this land? And will you find out you ended up wasting the chance to put us on the path to eradicating the hate in this land?
Road and follow my footsteps to the sparkling sands of a diamond desert. All around me, that voice was shouting, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Come on, y'all, come on.
California,
Cali,
to the New York Islands,
New York,
from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters.
Shout out to Woody.
This land was made for you and
Pick up the
me.
Nas. Tell him. Whose land is this? It's yours. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Whose land is this? The land is yours. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Whose land is this? It's yours. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Whose land is this? The land is yours. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, the Redwood Forest is yours. This land was made for you and me.
It's mine, it's mine, it's mine.
This land was made for you and me.
One more
Oh,
time.
this land was made for you and me.
Okay, folks, we've got some special guests here to talk about the reasons that they did the version of This Land Is Your Land the way they did for our 80th anniversary. And I'm just going to let the band and Branjae introduce yourselves. So we'll start with Branjae, the queen.
Oh, thank you, Deana. I'm Branjae Jackson. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a singer and songwriter and entertainer, and I just love to express myself through my art and music and all things entertaining.
French.
This is Wrench. I'm known as the mastermind that brought Gangstagrass together, and do a lot of singing and guitar playing and making the beats.
What's the deal? It's your man, Arson, the voice of reason, extreme, MC extraordinaire, holding it down from Philadelphia. Rap superstar, or so I claim. One of the MCs of Gangstagrass. Happy to be here.
What's up? Coming at you from the passenger seat of the same car that Randy is driving, or at least we can pretend that, right? This is Danjo. This is Dan Whitener. I am coming to you from New Jersey. I play the banjo and I sing and I write some songs and I just get up to all kinds of tomfoolery with this band.
I'm B. Farrow. I play the fiddle for this band. I also play a lot of bass elsewhere, and yeah, that's what you guys got on me for now.
Okay, so one of the things that I really loved about the way that you guys did This Land is that you did keep the harmonies and the original version of the song pretty pure and stuck with that, but your additions were absolutely mind-blowing. And so I thought, let's talk about what your reasons were for adding those words, for adding that rhythm. You know, what were you thinking whenever you decided what your version of this land was going to reflect. So, and you guys just take it, I mean, share the space, you know, at the same time, whatever works.
Well, first I want to talk about when we were invited to do this song. I was really excited because it's an amazing song, and the first thing that popped into my head was that we want to do some of the verses that aren't usually done that Woody actually wrote, because the song has gone through some versions, and you know, I happen to be a little bit familiar with the fact that there was these verses that got kind of dropped from the song later that to me are really really important verses in expanding the vision of what the song means. A song about private property and crossing those boundaries, and a song about you know, seeing poverty and wondering how much the land belongs to people, for me, were really good verses to make sure that we put in there to help contextualize the song. And I know that for me, I've been hearing that song since I was a little kid, and gone through a lot of time of evolving my understanding of the song politically, and coming to feel like there's these universal things in the song that are timeless and are so important to say, but it's also a song of its time, you know, written by a white person 50 years ago, and that comes with its blind spots, that I was so happy to have a chance to make sure that we sort of like fill in some of the gaps. So I wanted to include those original verses that a lot of people don't know about, to say this is what the song really should be. And then so excited to hand the song over to our son, Indolio the Sleuth, to write rap verses, to even go farther to say, here's our perspective on that song today.
You know, and that was one of those things that, you know, you like Brent said, you know the song, right? You've known about it for the longest time, and even not knowing a lot of the lyrics, you know the chorus and so on and so forth. And so to be able to add my own lyrics to that, to be about the very idea of the song, and to add some hip hop flavor to it, that for me was the best part. And then the part that we added at the end on the live show, for a lot of hip hop cats, Nas's "The World Is Yours" is as meaningful a track as, you know, This Land is for a lot of classic folk and Americana fans. And it just kind of fit, you know what I'm saying? And that, for me, that's probably my favorite Nas song. And in the realm of hip hop, Nas exists as one of those Woody type of figures, like this guy who, you know, when you talk about a lot of other people who may have had more financial success or whatever, there are cultural figures whose work exists in this realm that you have to, if you really want to claim it, you have to know it. And Nas is one of those guys that, you know, you have to know who he is and what he's done. And to be able to take that record, his record, "The World Is Yours," and flip it on the end of This Land, for me, that was the most fun. Just to really throw some classic hip hop stuff right there with some classic folk and Americana stuff, and really recognize how much they have in common. That for me was the joint. That made me very happy.
Honestly,
I just want to say, rhythm-wise, I really was inspired by Sharon Jones and Dap King's version of This Land. And so when I got asked to be a part of this, thank you. This is an incredible opportunity to be a part of. And I met some amazing other human beings that are allies and are fighting the same fight. So that's great that with Gangstagrass being a part of this, just now having each of these fellas as friends, you know, and partners and allies in this whole thing. So rhythm-wise, I really liked the way that Sharon Jones really broke down the soul aspect behind it. And as a Black singer, you know, I relate to that. I didn't really grow up to much folk music at all. I heard of This Land, kind of knew it from school, knew it was about equality in some sense, but never really looked into the lyrics. Definitely never, performed it other than the short chorus that everyone knows. So yeah, really an honor, and really felt awesome about the way that we brought soul into it. It was like a different genres brought into the song, which really makes the lyrics of the song real, because we're artists that have different backgrounds, and Woody was talking about a message that includes all of us so long ago. So that was really touching. Thanks, guys. I love you guys.
Thank you.
We love you too.
So much.
It was so good to have you on for that.
Sounds off of stuff that Rich was saying. I just think it's just heard the song is something that's closer to what Woody would have been singing today, because those original voices, I mean, they're just as fiery as other songs like "Tear the Fascist Down" or Vanzetti's "Letter," and I think to return the song to that sort of real look at America, it was natural for the song to be there. So I'm glad we were able to do that for her, and I hope Woody appreciates it from wherever he is right now.
Yeah, I want to echo that and just say I feel like we have this conversation a lot with this band where people ask us like, "Oh, you're bringing bluegrass and hip hop together, and that's weird. Like, this is such a new thing that you're doing." But a lot of the time, what we're doing is like what we did with this song, where we're actually just bringing in the old verses. We're bringing in what was part of something and maybe got lost or got put aside or got artificially separated. So I feel like this was just another great example of that, where we got to just go back to, something that was maybe more together and more unified. And I loved that show too. I loved listening to Aoife and Tracy with Tony, singing the Carter family song, "When the World's on Fire," hearing that right before we did that, and hearing the musical connection, it was just such a great thing to be a part of.
But the pleasure was absolutely ours. We loved it. What you did was incredible. The entire show was, honestly, in retrospect, right before everything had to close down, having that show in our hearts has helped a lot for those of us who were gathered and got to share hugs and share that love and share that spirit.
It was like the last show, really. It really was the last time that we had togetherness where we weren't cautious about keeping distance.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were hugging. We were anacondas. We were all over each other.
It was all
love. So we talked about, the history of the song and the reasons you did this song the way that you did. I think it's also interesting to get your perspectives on the future of this land and where we are now with, it being an election year, with Black Lives Matter, with the not that we can solve all of the country's issues in this discussion, but what, in your vision of this land, which was what Woody was doing, he was giving his vision of this land. What is this land? And where are we going? Where would you like to see it go? If you were writing your anthem of this land, what would it include?
I would say that a big part of it has got to be just sort of recognizing that we're all here now, right? Like, yes, we did some terrible stuff getting here. We're doing some terrible stuff right now, and I get, yeah, and I'm not going anywhere. I wouldn't ask anybody else to go anywhere. If you want to go, that's on you. But we're here now, right? And so, if this is where we're going to be, why not be here better? Like. But certainly you have to, if you're not aware of how we got here, you have to get aware. But the other thing you have to do is, you know, from this day forward, make the fact that you're here better, and be better in all of the things that you're doing here with all of the people that you're involving with here. And you know, the nature of this space that we call America is that we're all way more connected than we're not. So it just makes more sense to do as much good with everyone else that's here than not to.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you gotta be incremental about it, right? Like you can't try to solve, like you just said, we can't try to solve everything in this one conversation right now, but we can do a little bit at a time, and I think we have to do a little bit. I was listening to a radio show with, I think it was Medgar Evers' widow, and they asked her, "Did you think that this day would come with Mississippi changing the flag?" And she said, or no, they asked her, "Do you think you would live to see this day?" And she said, no, I didn't think that I was going to live to see this day. I knew it would come. I just didn't know when it would come. So, you know, it's got to be a day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Listening to a bunch of Woody, Rodriguez, Bill Withers, and it's funny how all these old folk singers say the same things, and
Okay, you're going to have to repeat all of that because you're kind of breaking up. So just say that all over again because I know it was amazing.
And try switching your audio to turn on original sound. Sometimes that helps with that kind of compression.
One sec.
So while he's getting up, I do want to say I think recognizing the past is a really important of the moving into the future, and that was so important to me in our version of the song that our son was able to bring in right from the top this recognition that this land was there were other people here, and there were essentially massacres that happened for us to be here now, and that there is this ongoing struggle, our society starting from the point of massacring people that were already here and having slaves in order to build things and have the economy work. That was the starting point, and we're still in the process of getting, I think, everybody really to recognize the weight of that. And so I think including that in the song is really important, and also recognizing that from that starting point, the amazing journey that this country is going on, that we're still taking steps towards in the future, you know, moving farther and farther towards trying to realize some of these ideals that we hold now in terms of this land being our land, really including everybody, and recognizing that that's got to include, like, you know, all the different people that are here in just like the full sense of everybody really being included and appreciated. And it's easy to not realize how deeply you have to mean that. And I think Woody really meant that in a full sense, knowing other works of his, like Deportee, that he would have considered everybody here to be part of us when he says us. But to reiterate that specifically, I think was good in this particular time that we're in, to point that out about his song, that it really means all of us. You know, in all of our different situations and all of our different communities, sharing this land and thinking deeply about what that really means.
Yes, I agree with Rich for sure. Woody's message, you know, that has been carried on all this time, moving forward. I think it's about understanding what that looks like to share this land. And, you know, we've had to take a lot of painful turns, picking up old rocks and turning over old stones, looking at the issues that we have in America today are based off how we started, you know, genocide of one culture of people and enslaving Black people all the way up until, 250 years, and then Jim Crow segregation after that, and we're still dealing with these same issues. So I think the song is relevant for today's time and in the future, because it's a reminder that this land is for you and me. We are all here, as Randy said, like, we are here now. And so we're having to learn and unlearn patterns and biases that have been picked up by white supremacy, and living in a country that has been, that slavery pretty much was its origin. So Woody's message is very, very, very important for today and the future, because to me, it's just that reminder of, yeah, we're here. This land is for us. And let's look at what we need to do as people to continue to be more equal, continue to, equalize all people, give power to the people, and not just the small percentage. So it's very important.
So what I was saying earlier was just echoing whatever everyone's saying here. I've been listening to a lot of folks like Woody Guthrie, John Prine, Bill Withers, Rodriguez, and checking out their lyrics, and just like Wrench was saying, just figuring how relevant their message is for today, and how much their message really doesn't need to be updated at all, how things haven't changed. And one song by Bill Withers keeps on catching my ear, Take It All In and Check It All Out. And I'm gonna go ahead and read you guys the lyrics here right now.
Yes.
You can fill up a room with idle conversation. You can set up a whole darn nation with your mouth. But before you start to show your indignation about a situation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You can create a boom with catchy information. You shake up a lot of people if you shout. But before you begin to grin about the success of your creation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You can make out a plan with aimless dedication. You can hang up a million slogans in your house, but before you put into operation, before you man your station, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. And I feel like that's what we're going through right now. We really need to take in just how we're reacting to each other, how our system's really working for us, what information we're taking in, how much information we really need to take in the first place, just everything, and check it all in. I've always thought, like, since high school, this nation was going through its teen years, and we're about to like come out of our teen years, and we're figuring out what it's like to live without our forefathers being echoing in our ear constantly. Because maybe, I don't know, some of the stuff they said isn't great.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I feel like you got to be present in the moment, and you gotta listen and be receptive and take it all in. And that's, figuring out how much of what was said 100 years ago or 80 years ago in this case is still relevant. Like, we can ask that question, what would he say today? Well, he probably would say a lot of the same things, but I like to think that if he was alive today, he would not say anything for a second. He would listen and say, wow, some stuff has changed in 80 years. Let me make some quick changes to this whole song. Or let me write a few more songs. I got to write some more songs, because some things are the same. It's the same struggle, but yeah, we can be open to some things being different today. And we just have to, the challenge is being present to every moment and hearing how that is not necessarily going to fit exactly the same version of the song you've been singing for 80 years. It's great and it works really well. And maybe that applies to some parts of the government too. Some parts of it can work well, but we have to stay listening and see if it's not working and find a way to make it work better.
I gotta disagree with you there. I feel like Woody would come back today and he'd listen and be like, "Oh, I got a song for you." Just play the old favorites.
You're probably right, man.
I I was on a panel a few years ago with Billy Bragg that we were doing for Americana Fest, and somebody asked about Woody and his constant communications. And Billy said, you know, if Woody were around, he would be all over Twitter, because you can give those little short comments kind of constant. Well, we've seen, and it's somebody else who's all over Twitter. But I could see that would probably be true, except you're so restricted to the character count on Twitter. And, you know, everything Woody wrote, I mean, letters were 13 pages long. He didn't write quick notes for the most part.
Woody would have
So,
threads. Woody would
yes.
have mad long threads.
Yeah,
That'd be
very long threads.
like, and right there at the end, it'd be like, follow this thread. It would go on for a minute, for a long minute.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Well, you all, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about that with me. I will tell you the video is getting a lot. I mean, we're sharing it a lot of different formats. I know the Clearwater Festival used it. We're sending it to PBS as part of a pitch for an edited version of the show. You know, we want to make sure that we get that message out as much as possible. And then, as you said, the entire show was incredible. But if you wanted to encapsulate what the show was about and the spirit of the show, it was through that performance that you all gave us. And so thank you for doing that. That was, it was an incredible thing of beauty. And I couldn't have been prouder than to been there to witness it and see what you all did together. And you didn't even know each other. I mean,
we knew each other by then. We knew each other. I felt like I knew. I felt like our souls. I felt like these are my people. Like I felt like by the time we played the first rehearsal, the first day I knew. I was like, these are my people.
Yeah, Branjae's in the band. You didn't know?
Yay!
It was such a great process to create it. And I feel like we were just open to everything, and just like idea would come up, and just like, and you're gonna do a spoken word verse and then sing a verse and some stuff with Fabric, and what if we threw in some Nas, and everything was just cool, dude, let's find a way, let's do it. We got 15 minutes.
That led to us recording it for our album. Right. So we've done a recording now, and we're going to put it out on our album because we're so happy with the whole thing.
Wonderful. I love it. I love it. You guys are amazing, and thank you for being part of our family. And I'm so sorry. Those of you who aren't aware, once we adopt you and make you part of the family, you can't get out. It's kind of like Hotel California. So sorry.
I'm in.
What is this, like a Hotel Oklahoma?
Yeah. Pretty much. But thank you again, and have a lovely day. I'm excited to share this with our friends and family at Woody Fest, and we will see you all in person sometime, and it's going to be wonderful.
We look forward to that.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
You guys. Good to see you.
Talk to you later.
Of course, the heart of the Woody Guthrie Center are the original handwritten lyrics to This Land Is Your Land, originally titled God Blessed America, in response to Kate Smith's idealized version of Irving Berlin's song God Bless America that was all over the airwaves whenever Woody was writing this. This is right after Woody had traveled from Pampa, Texas to Los Angeles, and then had trekked across the country to New York, nearly freezing to death in Philadelphia, by the way. And while he thought, yes, this is an amazing land and we have so many blessings, it's beautiful, he also saw his people, and he saw some problems with the way they were being treated. Things like signs that said no trespassing when there was a field full of orchards and fruits and vegetables, and people on the other side were starving. Why can't we go in there and share the bounty of this land? So this was his response. And while a lot of people know this as a happy sing-along song from school, The sing-along versions don't include the verses that are our favorites, the ones about as I went walking, I saw a sign that said private property, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. Or those commentaries on seeing people in line at the relief office, and as they stood there hungry, I stood there wondering, is this land made for you and me? Woody was pretty direct about what he was thinking at this time. But honestly, this is an observation on what he was seeing. At the bottom, he writes, all you can write is what you see. That's exactly what he was doing. The very next day, he wrote a song called Women's Hats. He was sitting in a second-story apartment, watching all of the women walking down the street and the different kinds of hats that they were wearing. So he wrote an observation piece on women's hats. So all you can write is what you see. What do you see? What are you going to write? So we currently have 3 exhibit cases celebrating the 80th anniversary of Woody writing This Land Is Your Land. As part of the history, in this case, we have the sheet music from Irving Berlin's God Bless America. We have a photo of where Woody would have been staying at Hanover House right here. An album from the Carter family of When the World's on Fire. It sounds a lot like the melody of This Land Is Your Land. And the song that he wrote the next day, Women's Hats, right here. And also during that week, he wrote They Laid Jesus Christ in His Grave. He was writing about everything during this week. Everything he was observing, the human condition, the way we were sharing things, everything he was thinking, he was writing about. I really love that about Woody's legacy. It didn't have to be, everything didn't have to be very deep and dramatic or insightful. Some of it's playful. And some of his most interesting music are the playful things. But then there are some really serious ones too. So he covers all bases. At the Woody Guthrie Center, we have the only permanent exhibit in Oklahoma that's dedicated to the Dust Bowl experience. You sit on the front porch, put on the goggles, and you, in the virtual world, are experiencing the anticipation of watching one of the worst dust storms approaching you. You see the impact it has on the environment around you, on the animals, and it could be a little bit startling, and which is good. We want people to understand the impact that humans have on their environment. And since this was a man-made ecological disaster, stress the need to care for the land. So those people who left this region to get away from the dust storms to survive were often greeted at the border of California by what was termed the bum blockade. Policemen who were stationed at the state borders to check to see if people had money before they would allow them into the state. If you didn't have money, if you didn't have that do-re-mi, you better get on back to where you came from. But the reason it's important to the Woody Guthrie Center is because of the impact it had on Woody becoming a social activist as a spokesperson for his people. He was in Pampa, Texas during Black Sunday, the worst of the dust storms. He saw people around him who literally thought the world was coming to an end. And then he traveled to California where he was on the radio. But he was also seeing the way that the people from Oklahoma, Kansas, New Mexico, Colorado were being treated. They were in migrant camps, starving. And the disconnect of those who had and those who didn't have anything was so huge that Woody knew he had to speak for his people. He was also on the radio receiving thousands of fan letters from his show. And he knew that his voice was reaching people and that he could make a difference for those migrants, for the disenfranchised workers who were his people. And he chose to use his voice to speak for them. Those people who felt that they had no voice, Woody Guthrie became their voice because of this experience.
Well, hello, my name is Sean Jarrett, and I am the senior pastor of New Jerusalem Church of Tulsa. I want to take this moment to send a word of reminder to our local community about the importance of voting. Of course, the 2020 general election is fastly approaching. In order to participate in that election, you first must prepare by getting registered to vote. So if you have not yet registered to vote, make sure you get registered. But then secondly, I want to encourage you to participate in this year's election. COVID-19 has recently drastically affected our world, our country, our state, and even our city. Millions of Americans are facing unemployment. I mean, you even think about that our city, our state still has underfunded schools. We still need criminal justice reform. All of these are landmark issues of our generation. And it's going to take bold leadership to lead our country into a brighter tomorrow. So I want to encourage you to go to the polls this year and cast your vote. I'll leave you with these words that perhaps you've heard before, that a voteless people is a hopeless people. Use your right to vote and get out to vote this year. Peace.